This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, good morning. Any doubts from previous topics? So we are into modularization techniques. In our last session, we have discussed how do we work with function module. And today we will continue and see what are the other tabs we have inside the function module. How do we work with them? So what is function module? Function module is one of the modularization technique which we used to improve the readability and reusability of the logic what we kept inside. And these function modules are self-executable. We no need to depends on any other executable programs. If you want, you can directly execute function module without any dependency. And these function modules, mainly we have exception handling, which is not there in any of the other modularization techniques. We don't have exception handling in includes subroutines. Only it is possible in function modules. And we will see this exception handling also. And to work with function module, the rule is simple. First, you should know what for the function module is designed, and then you must understand what are the inputs you have to pass to get the desired output. So if without understanding the function module behavior, if you are passing wrong inputs, then you will not get the desired results. So understanding the function module, how it is possible. One thing, if there is any documentation, go through the documentation and understand how this function module is designed, what for they have designed. If not, there is no documentation, then second thing, where user list, where this function module is used, how they have used. In that way, you can go and check the utilization of the function module and then pass the inputs and get the output. If you look inside of the function module, you have different tabs. Those are import, export, changing, tables, exception, source code. You have multiple tabs are there. In these tabs, mostly we need to discuss about this import. Import is input to the function module. These are input values we were giving to the function module, and export is output. This is a result of your function module, and source code where you write your logic part. So these are the three main tabs: input, output, and logic part. Apart from these three, we do also have another three. These are changing, tables, and exceptions. So exception, this one we use to handle errors which we know. So there are some scenarios. If that scenarios user tried, definitely he will get an error. That errors we will handle with this exception tab. And I'll give you an example what kind of errors, how these exceptions we can deal with it. And changing and tables. So changing is a parameter which is used to create variables or data objects to hold single record, multiple record information, which means here you can create a data object to store single record data, that is work area, and we can also create a data object to store multiple records, that is internal table. These data objects you can create using changing tab. If you wanted to store only table information, then it is recommended to use tables, but this tables is obsolete now. Obsolete in the sense we are not using, because the same thing we can also achieve using the changing tab. But inside any function module, if you see tables tab, you can understand this tables tab used for the data object table creation, internal table creation, which is used to hold multiple records information. This is the purpose we have changing and tables. Now we will see first this exception handling, how it is possible, and then followed by we will see how these data objects like a single record, multiple records, we can get it using the function module changing and tables parameters. Let me log in into system. SC37, which is used to create the function module or to display the function module. G Sanjay ARTH FM. Okay, let me quickly create this function module. Function module to perform arithmetic operations. Save, continue. So N1, which is input to my function module, type is I. Similarly, N2, type I, enter, and result will come here in the result tab. Type I. In the source code, we can perform result equal to N1 plus N2. So save, check, activate. This is a function module simple to perform arithmetic calculation addition, where you can enter your values, input values, and execute, you will get the result. Now I will enhance this function module with few more options. Like I'll give one more input function type C, and source code tab. What I'll do, if function equal to A addition, then only do this. Else, if function equal to yes, perform subtraction. And else if when function is m multiplication, do this logic. And else if when we were performing division operation, result is n1 by n2, end if. So this you can implement a logic using if statement, or if you want, you can also achieve the same logic using case statement. So any of the things are okay. If function equal to a, what is function? Function is one more input. Depends on the input what you are giving here, subtraction, multiplication, it is going to perform that particular result. 20 minus 10, that is 10. And if it is division operation, 20 by 10, that is 2. If it is multiplication, you can get this value. For example, I entered a value which is not exist. I just entered y. What will happen? We will get any results? No. So understanding about the function module, how it is designed, what purpose they have designed, and what are the inputs I have to pass. These are important. If you are not giving right input, you will not get any result. So if you see here, I am not giving any value to function, but when I try to execute, it is asking me to provide the value because this is mandatory input. So how do we know which is mandatory or not? If you go to here function, type C. So if you select this option checkbox, then this parameter will be optional. So if you are not providing this also, system will allow you to execute. But right now that is not optional, right? So that's the reason if I am not providing any value and trying to execute, it is asking me to provide the value, because if you are not selected that optional checkbox, then it is become a mandatory input. So mandatory input, any of the value you have to provide. Then only it will accept and proceed further. If you don't want this to be a mandatory, then you have to select this optional. When you select this optional, then system, it will not prompt you for value when you are not providing any input. Now I am not giving any input, execute. See, now it is going and giving any result based on the value you have given, because function is not mandatory. That's where it is not asking you to provide any input. So you have a control of your inputs, which is you want to be make it as a mandatory input, which is you wanted to be make it as a optional parameter in the input. So now exceptions. So where these exceptions are used. Let's say user is doing a division operation. He was trying to do a division operation, but he was not giving lower value, which means 10 by 0. What is the result of 10 by 0? It's infinity, which we don't have a defined value. Then what system will do? It will go for a dump. Dump is nothing but, boss, you are trying to do some logic, but that logic I'm unable to answer you. That is what system dump means. So if you click this debugger, it will take you to the place where dump is coming. So now this is the place. Short dump is coming. Why dump is coming? Because you are asking system to perform n1 by n2 and hold that value into the result variable, data object. But system is unable to do it. Why? Because system is unable to calculate the value of n1 by n2. That is the reason it went to that dump. Sorry, I am unable to achieve the operation what you are trying to do. So I can't help you with that. So this is what the dump means. And you can also see here division by 0 is this is caused issue. So once you understand this, as a technical consultant, this is okay for you because you can able to understand what is happened. But end user's point, they may not understand these kind of dumps, right? So for them, you have to stop and give a proper message. Then how this messages we can display in a proper way is by using this exceptions. You can write an exception, a division error. This is a division error. And now in the source code tab, you can use this exception. How? Again, you need to check here. Else if when function is D, again one more condition. If N2 is initial and if is initial means we don't have value. When you don't have value, we are going to trigger exception, rise division error. And the below logic should be happened at else part. What we are checking here, if N2 is initial, when user not provided value to N2, then trigger this exception. Don't go for the dump. If user entered value in N2, then go for the division operation, N1 by N2. Now execute. Enter values. I'm not giving value. I'm just giving a value as 0 only, and function is division. Execute. Now you can see it is not going for a dump. It was thrown an error, division error. Because of this, you can provide user to a proper message. So division error is occurred. Please enter value for N2. You can also pass that message, proper message, to the users when they were using when they are using this function model in any reports. Now this function model, if I wanted to use in a program, SC38 G Sanjay function module ARTH use. So click on create, use function module ARTH in program, executable program. What happened? $TMP local object. Now there is a program where end user he wanted to do some calculations, and instead of writing logic, already I have seen there is a function module. So I am using this function module in my program. Now you can see this function module when I am calling it was giving exporting as not in comments, but importing and exceptions are in commented lines. Why? If you double click, you can see import optional checkbox is not there, whereas in export you have a optional checkbox. Optional checkbox is not there means this is optional. You don't have where you need to maintain as a mandatory. Similarly, exceptions also. Only you have a control on input, whether you want it is you can make it as optional or mandatory. When you click on optional, those will comes as a commented lines. Since importing and exceptions you don't have optional, that's where these are coming as commented lines. If you want, you can use it. Otherwise, without that also you can run your function model. But to run my function model, I need all these import and exceptions. So uncomment. Now provide input. Input you can provide either manually or by using some parameters. Input screen parameters p underscore n1 type I, p underscore n2 type I. These are my input screen fields. Pretty print, save. Now this p underscore n1 and p underscore n2 you can pass to this function module and function. So function also there, right? This is also an input. P underscore function type is C. It is very important to pass relevant data types to your input variables, which means function module input data types and program input data types must match. Otherwise, it will go for a dump. Now result. So result is our data object. So result type I and pass result here. Pretty print, save, check, activate. Now using this function module, you can achieve arithmetic calculations. Now, how do we use this exception handling? For example, if I pass, one second, let me write, else write result. So what is this? Psi sub r c not equal to 0 means if some issue happened, like division error occurred, then psi sub r statement will trigger if psi sub r c, which means function module operation is success, then it will become 0. When it is 0, you can display your result operation. Now execute. So 10 and 40 addition operation execute. That is 50. Multiplication 400. So like this you will get input values. For example, division operation performed with lower value as 0 and division operation execute. I am not getting any result. Why? Because here I haven't written any code. Let me place debugger and execute. So 10, 0 and division operation execute. Now we are in the function module and these are our inputs and this is our output. Two inputs we were giving along with the function, what type of function we were performing, and we were expecting a result. Now, what this function module is doing, let me click on F5. When you click F5, it will go inside of this function module. Now we are inside the function module. And in desktop 2, you can see the screen flow. When you click on desktop 2, you can see first we executed this program and this program which called this function module. Now we are inside this function module. That is what the screen flow where you can see right now in which you are, that it is going to explain here. Now you are inside of the function module. This is the function module. Now go to the desktop 3. So now you are inside the function module. Inside function module, what is happening? Inputs, whatever you have passed, those values are taken as a reference by n1, n2 and function. n1, n2 and function. So these are the inputs which you have given from your program to, so this is our program. So from our program to function module. Now F5, what is the function? Is division. And make sure always within the quotes, always you have to maintain upper characters, because at runtime it is considering only the upper cases. So don't put these values as lower cases. Always within the quotes, it should be upper cases. Now the functionality is division. Then it is going to check What is the value of N2? N2 value is initial. Is initial means no value is there. Then it will go to the exception raise division error. When the exception is triggered, then you are coming outside of the function module, and you can see psi sub rc value is what? Psi sub rc value is 1. 1 is indicating division error. Now, based on the value of the exception, you can trigger particular message. That message we haven't implemented. If psi sub rc not equal to 0, then you can use this message. Please value for N2 and type is information message. Ready print, save, check, activate. Now remove breakpoint, execute 10, 0 and division. Execute. Now you can see please enter value for N2. So user can go and give value and execute so that he will get the value. Because users, they may not understand if you pass this message, division error. It's a technical name. Technical name they cannot understand. So only they can understand a proper message. Exceptions are helpful to identify a scenarios where it will go for a error state, and then take care that kind of scenarios in advance and give proper messages. So this is one scenario we understand during the arithmetic calculation division. We usually get this kind of error. So that's where we have implemented exception. Similarly, like sometimes what will happen, there are some arithmetic calculations, additions user is trying to do. And that time what will happen, users might be entered very huge amount of values. Let's say this one and this one and multiplication. User is trying to do a multiplication with this, and then you might get a value uh, which is not a result, proper result he may not receive because of huge inputs he was trying to perform. System does not have a memory to accommodate that much result. So in that case also it will go for a dump. This is one more dump, integer overflow during multiplication, because the result value which is huge and system is unable to capture in the result data type, because here result data type is what? It is a integer. If you go to debugger, you can see what was the value, n1 value and n2 value, and we were trying to multiply and accommodate into result. So what is the result uh, data type? It is integer and 4. It has a limited amount of memory. It can only store a limited amount of value, but you are trying to store a huge amount, and that system is unable to hold it. So in that case, it will throw a dumps. So these kind of dumps also you can easily identify, and to overcome these dumps, go and create one more exception, arithmetic multiplication error or overflow exception, and that exception you can implement when multiplication operation is doing. So these are all different exceptions we may understand before itself, and then implement in exception tab, and wherever this function module is being used, at that place we will implement these exceptions. Whenever user is doing, we will pass proper messages to the user saying that this is you are doing incorrectly because system cannot able to handle this kind of scenario. You please give a limited amount of data so that it will perform addition operation or multiplication, whatever it is. So like this is a function model arithmetic calculation related. If you go to SC37 and search SAP created function model, there are n number of function models SAP created with the similar concepts. They have used imports, exports, and source code logic they kept inside the function model, and they have wherever it is required that where place a function model is being used, and also they have handled exceptions with clear messages. And what is the advantage of this function model? One thing is readability. So you can easily read, specify this function model to perform arithmetic operations, and reusability. Actual logic, it is kept inside this source code, and this entire logic, we can use it any program wherever this logic is required. So now this is a simple logic, but in some function models, which will be a huge logic, and developers no need to spend hours of time to build that logic. Simply they can call and use inside the program. Now we will see the other tabs, changing and tables. This we will see with a different function model. Let's say Sanjay sales or get sales. For example, I wanted to build a function model which gets sales information. Already exist. Okay. Sales data. I am using existing function group, the function model to get sales data. Save, continue. Now I wanted to build a function model. This function model which is helpful to pick the sales information. The sales information usually where we can see in table VBAK. This is our sales data. I wanted to pick the sales data from this table. Then what should I pass here? To pick the sales data, I have to enter sales order number. When you enter sales order number, you will get sales information. If you are not giving any sales order number, then you will get all the records. If I enter sales order number, I'll get sales data, right? So I want a function model to get the sales data. Then how do I build this function model to get the sales data? We have to first know what is the input and what is the output. The input is sales order document ID. So that is your input. Sales order ID is your input parameter. And the type followed by what is the associated type. Let me close other windows. Associated type is nothing but this sales document field data element. So copy this data element and use it here. Enter. Now your input is ready where you can provide sales order number. Now once you provide the sales order number, this sales order contains multiple values, which means single record. Record is nothing but group of multiple fields. So sales order which is having a group of multiple fields. Now how can I store this record information is you have to create a data object work area. So data object work area which holds single record information. Where we can create that work area, you can create in changing tab. This is our work area. Data object, local structure for sales. Structure means which holds single record. Type followed by reference, what is the reference we have to give? Reference is VBAK, because VBAK data only we were picking. Now your input is given and you are ready to pick single record. Then go to source code tab. Write the logic. If sales order ID is not initial, whenever user entered sales order number, then only go and pick the data. That is what the condition. Select star from which table? VBAK into where you have to pass ls underscore sales. What is the condition? Where sales order number is nothing but user entered sales order value. What happened? If sales order ID is not initial, select a star from into. Why this is formatting error? Any mistake is there? Let me check. And select. Okay, select single. You have to use select a single star. That is the mistake we have given. Pretty print. Because we are getting only single record from the table, right? So that's the reason we have to use select a single star, means all the columns data from VBAK table, and those columns information move it into this work area ls underscore sale. And what basis you have to pull the data from VBAK? Based on sales order ID, what user entered, that sales order ID related information only, pick it from VBAK and move it into this work area. Now save, check and activate. So now let me place breakpoint here in the function module, execute. Now sales order ID is mandatory. You have to enter sales order ID. So this is my sales order ID and execute. First, what we are checking, sales order ID user entered or not. If sales order ID user entered, then F5. Now go to VBAK table and pick the data and move it into LS sales. LS sales is what? It's a structure. Structure means it holds only single record value. Record means group of multiple fields. Click on F5. Now you can see your size sub RC is 0. Size sub RC is a return parameter which will becomes 0 whenever you have success, means you have a record identified from the DB and we fetched value into work area, then size sub RC becomes 0. Now LS sales, when you go and see, you have the data. This is what your that particular sales order related information. Execute. Now you can see this information in your LS sales parameter. This is the result. These are the values. You can see all this sales information which we have fetched from the sales order table. Now I wanted to fill not single record. I wanted to fetch all the data. Then you have to create table. This is structure. Then you have to create a table. LT sales type. To create a internal table, you have to use a table type of VBAK. Go to here. Where is the list? Now I wanted to find out a table type for this VBAK, because in my function module I have to create an internal table. So you can use this TT underscore VBAK. Double click. So this one you can use it inside your function module. So what is the difference between above and below? VBAK is a table and TT underscore VBAK is a table type. So table is a data object which stores data permanently in the database. And this table, when you have given as a reference using type keyword, what will happen? Type will get the table reference to your data object what you are creating, and this data object will be a structure when you are referring type followed by table. But when you are referring data object with the same type, but here we were using reference as table type, not a table. So difference between table and table type is table is a data object stores data permanently, whereas table type is a data object which is created on any data object, which may be a table or a structure, whatever it is. It will make that particular reference as a internal table, which is ready to hold the data as a table. So basically these table types are meant to created to utilize in the programs. So now if you use this table type, what will happen? Now system allocates a memory to LT sales data object to store multiple records. Then go to source code tab. If sales order ID is entered, then this is the logic. If else statement, if sales order ID is not entered, then we have to fetch all the data, right? Then select star from VBAK into table LT sales, where so now no need to pass this one because we were not giving any value input. So pretty print select from VBAK into table LT sales. That's all. Check activate. Now place the breakpoint. Execute. And sales order ID, we will make it as optional. Otherwise, it will be always asking us to enter value. Now this is optional. You can enter or you may not enter. That is your choice. So first, I'll not enter anything. Execute. So what we are checking here, sales order ID, we have entered any value or not. And these are our data objects. All three are data objects. Sales order ID, LS sales, LT sales, all are data objects which holds data at runtime. So sales order ID is a variable which holds single value always. Whereas LS sales is a data object of type work area which holds multiple values of single record. The LT sales is data object of type internal table which holds multiple records information. Now, are we entered any sales order ID? No. F5. We were into else statement. So else what is doing? It is getting all the data from VBAK and moving into LT sales. F5. So now size bar C is 0, which indicates system able to find the records. And in LT sales, when you double click, you can see there are nearly 15,400 records are there of 153 columns. A memory 2260 KB memory is allocated. And these are all the records information. When you execute, You will see the results here in the result tab. 15,400 records are there. So here you need to select for the next pages so that you will see other records. Here pages are there. Go to the next page like this. You have nearly last page. If you want to go to the last page, this is the one. 15,380 records are there. So now the same thing we can also achieve with the tables. Internal table, this one, what we have created, this is also we can create using tables. I'll show you how do we create. LT, sales, I'll write it as temp. Okay. So when you are using tables, if you wanted to create an internal table, you have to use like keyword, like followed by your database table. Now save, check, activate. Like also, it will create a data object of type internal table by taking the reference of database table. Now the same logic here, let me comment and we will use this temp table. Select star from VBAK into table temp. Pretty print, save, check, activate. Now execute. Let me place breakpoint properly first. Place here, execute. I'm not giving any value, execute. So F5 close this. Sales order ID is data object, LS sales data object, LT sales temp is data object. Now you can see sales order ID is variable, LS sales is structure, and LT sales temp is a data object which is used to create structure, which is used to create the internal table. The difference between the one which we created earlier, LT sales, and this LT sales temp is when we are created using changing with the table type reference, only internal table is created. But when you have used tables parameter with like keyword, then this like keyword, it creates both structure and internal table. So same data object, you can use it as a structure, you can use it as a data object. Now F8. So you can see 15,000, 1400 records, which are there inside the internal table. But this table's parameter is obsolete and like we should not use it because why? When you use like keyword, what will happen? It becomes as a structure, as an internal table. For example, you need only single record. For that purpose, you have used like keyword. Like keyword, what it does, it will allocate a memory of in table VBAK total memory it will allocate whether you store single record or multiple records. Irrespective of anything, it will allocate a table memory. Then that is a disadvantage. When you wanted to store single record, a less memory is required. But when you use like keyword, then what will happen? Like keyword, it will create work area as well as internal table. But if you are using single record, then unnecessarily memory is wasting. So to overcome that, SAP, they have suggested you to use the changing tab. If you want work area to create, then use type followed by table. If you want internal table to be created, type followed by table type. Don't use the tables parameter, but few existing function modules, they have used tables. Wherever you see tables, don't confuse. This is also used for internal tables purpose, where you can see like keyword is used. What you need to do, place a breakpoint and run this function module, or try on your own and place a breakpoint. Most important thing is this data object. What is this data object? How it is created? What it is ready to hold? Those things check in the debugger. Okay. I'll be stopping with this today. Any doubts so far? Okay, if no questions, we can wind up for today. Thank you. Bye.